Guy I met on a bus confessed to murder to my face for no reason. Okay, so it was February 22nd. I was taking a bus home like I usually do, hung out with my friends after school, so it was like 7 p.m. and dark. I was the only one on the bus until this guy, if I had to guess in his 30s/40s, gets on at one of the stops. He looked kind of sketchy, so I didn't look at him much, but he kind of looked like Eminem. Anyway, the bus driver stops and is taking a break or something. I don't know, but he says he can't have us stay on the bus while he's gone. So the sketchy guy gets up grumbling and swearing to himself about how it's so cold and whatnot. We all get off and the sketchy guy and the bus driver go to the Circle K we are stopped by. And I don't want to stand in the dark by myself, so I follow them. Thing is though, by the time I go over there, sketchy guy is coming back out already. I'm trying to avoid all eye contact and not get in the way of this guy, but he stops me and starts saying things like, "Look at you, you're not even dressed for the weather. How old are you? You shouldn't be out like this." He then offers me his jacket, which I politely decline, and then starts offering to buy me hot chocolate. I'm getting pretty uncomfortable ATP, so I just say yes and go in with him. He buys the hot chocolate for me and I say thanks, and he just starts ranting about how the bus driver is an asshole for kicking us off. ECT. I'm kind of tuning him out until he says, if that bus driver leaves without us, I'll chase him to the next stop and put a bullet between his eyes. Like, wow. Okay. What am I even supposed to say to that? He starts making more death threats to the bus driver till he drops the bombshell and says, "I've done it before, I've killed a man before," and I'm just walking there, trying to think of a response to a literal murder confession. The only thing I could think of at the time was, did he deserve it? And he says, "Oh yeah, he did," and then just doesn't talk to me the rest of the bus ride. I have no idea what I'm supposed to do. I looked for mugshots from murderers in my area and there was nothing that looked like him. So should I tip the police? Let them know that, hey, there's a murderer running loose and presumably hasn't been caught yet. Pretty freaked out by all of this, not sure if he was trying to scare me or what. All advice would be really helpful. Man on the bus. This event takes place 5 years ago, when I, was only 14. I was taking the bus home pretty late at night. It was dark outside, and there was only 2 other passengers in the bus besides me. The other was sat at the very front, while I was at the back, with the third passenger, around 30-year-old man, sitting directly behind me. Some point during the 25-minute journey I could feel the men behind me kicking my seat. At the time I wasn't concerned, only thought it mildly annoying. I did start to get nervous though, when the men switched to the seat besides me, and I could see him staring at me from between the 2 seats. This uncomfortable staring went on for some time. Until he got up and switched seats again, this time to the seats in my row, across the aisle. I could see from the reflection in the window that he was staring intently at me, and I did my best not to sneak glances at him. From the reflection I could see that he was rubbing his hands together in a way that made me extremely uncomfortable. When I finally mustered the courage to look at him, his jeans zipper was open, his dick was out of his boxers and he was jacking off right there, looking directly at me. I felt sick, and I hopped off the bus at the next stop and ran for my fucking life. I was terrified that he would follow me and do God knows what to me, since there was no one on the streets on a weeknight. Thankfully, there was a train station only about 300 meters away from the bus stop, and I could get home that way. Looking back at what happened, I regret not getting up and alerting the driver about the men. I try not to beat myself up about it though, having been barely a teenager at the time. The creep on the bus. I ride the city bus all the time. It's the way I get to college. I usually ride early morning and then again in mid-afternoon. This took place in the early morning on a Thursday. I got on the bus like usual, watching as we drove by my boyfriend. He walks me to the bus stop every day to make sure I make it there okay. I sat down in a seat next to the elderly and disabled section. I put in my headphones and waited for my stop. A few stops after I got on, an older man got on the bus and sat in front of me. I'm an anxious person, so I pulled my bag a little closer to me as it had my iPad in it and I was very afraid of it being stolen. I watched as he talked to another older gentleman whom he seemed to know. Then the next stop his friend got off. A few stops before mine he turns to me and starts talking to me. "So where are you off to?" he asked, a big grin forming on his lips. I froze. The question was innocent enough, but it sent chills down my spine. I'm headed grocery shopping. I need to pick up some snacks. I'm having guests over this weekend. I nervously responded. I lied about where I was going but not about having guests over on the weekend. I had a feeling I needed to tell this man I was going to be accompanied by people. Is that yours? He gestured to my sketchbook sitting on the chair next to me. Yes. I pulled the book closer to me. May I see it? He asked, reaching out expectant. I'm sorry but no, I responded. It had my phone number in it in case I ever lost it, and I did not want this guy to have my phone number. All right, he said, leaning back in his chair, sounding a little frustrated. I squirmed in my seat, hoping my stop was coming soon. I think your hair color is very pretty. Is it your natural color? He started rubbing his thighs and biting his lip. I noticed he was staring at my tits. Mine aren't exactly small, and this was the one day I happened to forget to wear a bra. No. It's dyed, I responded, confused as my hair is blue. He nodded, obviously still staring at my chest. I shifted so I could cover my boobs with my arms. You seem like a very nice young lady, he said, his voice growing deeper as he rubbed his thighs faster and closer to his crotch. Dear God, please let my stop be soon. I thought, would you like some help with your grocery shopping? He asked, grinning once again. No, I'm fine, I'm meeting some friends there. They're going to help me out. I responded, scrambling for my phone in case I needed to call 911. I looked up and my stop was coming soon. I yanked the cord to let the bus driver know that I wanted off. The bus driver came to a stop and I jumped up and hurried toward the door. Where are you going? I heard the man ask from behind me, his voice booming and angry. I just remembered I need to make a pit stop before heading to the store. I responded, not stopping. Well, I hope I get to see you again sometime soon. I heard as the doors closed behind me. I hope to God I never see you again in my lifetime, I thought as I sprinted off to my school. I have never moved so fast in my life. Creepy encounter on the bus. A few years ago, about 2019, I was riding the bus one night to get home. There was a guy on the bus that was a little disheveled and dirty, reeked of alcohol and generally acting weird. I was sitting in the back and he sat near me and tried to talk to me. I was polite at first. I ride the bus at night a lot, so a drunk homeless guy does not bother me and I have no problem making small talk with a stranger on the bus. Plus, I'm used to there being one or two sketchy people on the bus considering the route and the fact it's late at night. When he tried to get flirty, I politely told him I wasn't interested and put my headphones back in my ears and ignored him. He got a little frustrated, and even said some vulgar things, but I couldn't really hear him, so it was fine. It's not my first rodeo being in that kind of situation, and while it is uncomfortable and there's nothing okay about that sort of behavior, I rarely feel threatened. Most of the time they are harmless, all bark and no bite, and I'm a big girl, as in tall and overweight, and I know basic self-defense and always have an exit strategy when in scenarios where I don't feel safe. When people get like that on the bus, I find most of the time, ignoring them and acting like I'm not fazed is enough for them to get bored and find something else to do. I only engage if they get in my face or start harassing other passengers, especially other women, kids and seniors, or anyone who appears vulnerable, because I will not tolerate that. And the bus drivers usually don't put up with that either if it escalates enough. Anyway, this random, drunk homeless guy would have been just one of many random drunk, homeless guys if it weren't for what happened next. So my stop is coming up. I am looking forward to going home. I am exhausted and so ready to get to bed. I pull the cord to indicate that I want off on the next stop, and he gets up and walks up to the front to talk to the driver and then laughs, loudly. I don't think much of it, except I'm a little wary and thinking, please don't tell me we're getting off at the same stop. As the bus slows down, I am waiting at the back door to be let off at my stop. Instead of opening the back door, he opens the front door and the guy gets off. I ask the driver to open the back door and I see him shake his head in the mirror and annoyed. I walk to the front to get off there, but he closes the door before I can get off and starts driving, angry. I say, what the hell, that's my stop, and the driver replies, sorry, but I can't in good conscience let you off at the same stop as that guy. Either get off at the next one or wait until we get to a transit station and take a bus going the other way. Not getting it, I ask, why? Because of what he said to me, he says. I ask what he said and the driver just says, nothing I would like to repeat. Ever. I am so sorry, but just trust me. The driver actually looked shaken, and considering the tone of his voice and the look on his face, as frustrated and anxious as I was to get home, I trusted him and took his word for it. I caught another bus going the other way at the next terminal and watched the driver radio dispatch to get some peace officers and transit security to patrol the area near that stop. They were parked in the parking lot near the stop when I finally got off, and I was extra paranoid and on high alert as I walked the couple of blocks to my apartment that night, fortunately without further incident. I never saw that guy again, and I am okay with that, to this day. I wonder what exactly he said to the driver. It bugs me not knowing, but at the same time, maybe it's better that way. Either way, the implications are enough to have freaked me out. I was briefly kidnapped by a bus driver, who accidentally saved me from a desperate situation in the process. Some nice soul suggested I share this here. In 1991 I got on a bus going the wrong way in a new city, Santa Monica, with no cash or phone or idea of where I was headed. The bus driver kicked everyone else off the bus in Culver City but wouldn't let, now thoroughly panicked, me off. He told me we were going to his apartment and got on a freeway. At one point I told him I had AIDS and he told me we could use a condom. Oi, but then the bus depot people came on and told him that a bunch of the passengers had called in saying he'd kept a girl on the bus and wanting to know what was happening. So he dropped me off at UCLA where my aunt was working. I was spending the summer with her, and that was the end of my adventure. If I hadn't been kidnapped I would have been in huge trouble. I had no idea where I was, and I didn't even know my aunt's number. I think about this all the time.